Fire Emblem Engage sales are going exactly as I thought that it would because the game has now been out for almost a month at this point as of the time that I'm recording this video, but we do have the January 2023 MPD sales. Now the MPD sales are here in the US. United States doesn't track any other place, and it also doesn't include digital sales for Nintendo titles. And in the most recent MPD sales, Fire Emblem Engage was the fifth best selling game for the month of January in the US, and that didn't include the digital sales, where Fire Emblem Engage was pretty much #1 on the eShop charts for the majority of January. Many weeks it was #1, and I think even into February as well, before other games came out and also before there was discounts and stuff like that. But it did very well on the eShop for its run, and I think it's still there in the top 30 as well. Plus, it did great at retail between the special editions and also the physical copies of the game. So it's very good to see Fire Emblem Engage continue to sell well and have a great debut building off the backs of Fire Emblem 3 Houses. And I think that's the thing that some people want to know is like, hey, is this game going to be able to stack up to Fire Emblem 3 Houses in the long run when it comes to sales? We still have to wait and see on that, but it's off to a great start because we do know that the game did sell more in its initial launch in Japan physical, just slightly over Fire Emblem 3 Houses, but the digital sales aspect ratio is absolutely higher now at this point than it was back in 2019 when Fire Emblem 3 Houses came out. So we can assume that Fire Emblem Engage, considering it was #1 in Japan, #1 here in the US, and #1 in many regions on the eShop, with the increased install base of the Nintendo Switch, that the game is probably doing better digitally now at this point than Fire Emblem 3 Houses did back in 2019. So things are going exactly how I felt that it would go, even though there was some discourse online about Fire Emblem Engage and its visuals and what they're doing with the story and direction. Heck, there's still some of that now at this point. And of course, no game is perfect. I don't expect everybody to say everything is great in every single game, but I do feel that people were very curious in Fire Emblem Engage and the gameplay mechanics, but I do think that the gameplay in there pretty much carries it at this point, along with some of the cool nods to the old school Fire Emblem characters, the interaction that you have between certain characters when they're on the map together, or even the paralog battles have definitely got Fire Emblem fans very excited, on top of the replay value that Fire Emblem Engage offers over previous Fire Emblem games with the custom side of things. Now, you've always had single player replay value where you can kind of go in, and if you want to play at a different difficulty, or if you want to play a different route or path, that's something that some Fire Emblem games have already had. But this game in particular takes it to a whole new level with the replayability, because not only do you have the difficulty levels that you can do, but then you also have the Tower of Trials, where you can go in and play online multiplayer with your friends with relay tickets, or you can do the trials yourself, or you can kind of go in and download your friends' maps that they make, and you can play through that. Then you can use what you earn from that to upgrade your Engage weapons, and you have a whole new, I would say, vice versa, or kind of risk reward and also difficulty that can be bumped up, I think even higher than what the standard difficulties are in the game, because you can move it from like 1 to 40 or something like that, and then you can get those orbs to upgrade your Engage weapons. So that really is cool, because it's kind of like multiplayer to single player, or the single player trials mode to the regular single player campaign. And it's just awesome. It's a awesome game, well constructed title, and I felt that it would do really well. But #5 on the US eShop sales without digital, who knows how much higher it would have been if they did include that. And you also have those digital vouchers that have been going out too, so people are probably using it on that as well. So awesome to see Fire Emblem Engage do very well, and of course I'll be monitoring it, how it goes on Fire Emblem Three Houses, just for comparison, when it launched in the NPD sales charts, I think it was right around number 10, or it might have been a bit higher than that, but I know it wasn't as high as 5 or so. But you can't do a direct comparison with positional charts on the sales, since we don't get actual numbers, and the positional charts in terms of the threshold for number 1 and number 20 could be completely different each month. So that's not really an indication of anything, but it's good to see that it did debut so high on the charts without digital sales. So very good across the board there for Fire Emblem Engage. I am still working on my review for the game, guys. I'm about 80 plus hours in. I finished all of the DLC content so far, between the Edelgard, stuff like that, and also Tiki, in addition to the Hector, Soren, and Camilla DLC maps as well. So if you guys want reviews on that, if you just want me to roll it into one review, I can. But yeah, it was very fun, and I'm almost done with the game. I got a few more chapters here to really close things out. Then I'll have my big 100-hour plus review on the game coming up pretty soon here. Should have that out in the next couple weeks, week or two at least. So that's awesome to see. But to go from one RPG to another awesome RPG, we've got some new footage and information on the rogue-like battles and content coming to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 very soon here. Also, we got to talk a little bit about the DLC as well. So a rogue-like challenge battle, Daisen's Makai, and I probably said that wrong, added in the 3rd installment. Now, which hero you choose and what timing in terms of abilities that you pick will be the key to victory. So you don't want to get jacked up here. So they're borrowing a defender hero. And there's also more information on various different things with the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC. So you'll definitely need to recover the Gauge at the shop after the battles. You want to get the hero's abilities at the shop, and don't forget to recover. So they're talking about a lot of different things here with the DLC that is coming up very soon here. And it's exciting because Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it's been a while since the last DLC drop for the game, and it was pretty good. Like, it wasn't horrible. They did like the whole new Poppy situation, but I'm looking forward to this rogue-like battle type of thing. They're kind of mixing things up and making it a little bit more creative than what we saw in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and previous Xenoblade games. I like what they're doing here, where it's a singular character, then you pick that and pick the ability, and then you go from there and you can add in new ones. But if you fail, then you go all the way back. I'm not a big rogue person as a main mode, but as a side mode, something else to do after you've beaten the game and done the rest of the content, I think it's pretty cool, and it will challenge players out there, especially on the higher difficulty levels that these things do. So very excited about that. But I think the biggest thing that everyone is so excited about is the main story-based DLC that's coming out in Wave 4 sometime this year. And I think that the revelation that many people had with this, especially after that Nintendo Direct, is that this is going to be legitimately the tie-up to everything. There was some unanswered questions after Xenoblade Chronicles 1, after 2, after 3. Obviously, you had Future Connected that kind of put some pieces, but not as much. You had Torna that answered a lot, but this is finally the finale in terms of putting that bow, that cherry on top when it comes to the Xenoblade saga, the Xenoblade trilogy of games. And I think that this is going to be an epic masterpiece. A lot of you guys have asked me if you feel that this will be the end of Xenoblade. Well, no, I don't think that it's going to be the end of Xenoblade, considering that Monolith Soft said that it wasn't, but I do think that this is the end of how we see Xenoblade at this point. How the gameplay is completely, how the story flow is, how everything is what they've done. There is a common similarity between Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade 3, even X to a degree. I think that when we see Xenoblade again in a big brand new game, it's going to have quite a bit of different things attached to it, and it's not quite going to be the same Xenoblade that we do know and love. Not in a bad way, but I think that they're going to make some changes to kind of enhance the formula of what they've already done, the next evolution of Xenoblade is definitely coming, but I think that's going to be after their new IP that I feel will debut on the next Nintendo Switch. But overall, this DLC that's coming, very excited to see Shulk and Rex, very excited to see what's going on with Alvis and why he went haywire at one point and what happened leading into what seems to be a descendant from Noah, or a version of Noah in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with that Fei Wong hairstyle. So I'm loving it, and I think that it's going to be very exciting to play later in the year. But speaking of very exciting to play potentially later in the year, Square Enix has talked about the team that handles Final Fantasy Tactics is extremely busy with a project. So let's talk about this. Now, an RPG site had the beat on this one, and they stated that earlier this month, French Final Fantasy website FF World, along with Final Fantasy Ring, Final Fantasy Dream, and Finland, conducted an interview with Square Enix producer Ichiro Hazama regarding the upcoming launch of Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Now, the interview is quite lengthy, so we're not going to go over everything there. It was pretty much just discussing Theatrhythm, which has a demo on the eShop. You can go check it out. It's a really fun Final Fantasy themed spin-off music game. But a response to a particular question gives fans of certain other Final Fantasy games a little bit to kind of chew on here. The interview asked Hazama about character representation in these celebratory franchise games like Theatrhythm Final Bar Line and Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, specifically why several characters from Final Fantasy Tactics are absent from those titles. Now, here was Mr. Hazama's response. This was translated from French originally. He said, quote, "Both Theatrhythm and Opera Omnia are games that cover the entire series, including characters and their stories, but we do not want to create our own interpretation of Final Fantasy. To that end, we go to people who are responsible for each individual title within the series. For example, we are discussing Final Fantasy VII, we go to ask Mr. Nomura. If it's related to Final Fantasy Tactics, we talk with the team that manages Tactics. For each character, we discuss their combat skills and how they are represented with the people who are in charge of each game. In truth, the team that handles Final Fantasy Tactics is extremely busy with another project at the moment, and I think that is why there are not more Tactics characters in the game. All that said, I can assure you that Opera Omnia producer Mr. Fujiwara is eager to include characters from Tactics. Now, it does seem likely that the Tactics team refers to the group responsible for titles such as Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, Dungeon Encounters, and the recent release Tactics Ogre Reborn, which includes producer Hirokai Kato. Now, Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster was originally spotted in the 2021 NVIDIA GeForce Now leak, and considering the later appearance of other games in the leak such as Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition, it does seem more likely that Tactics Remaster is real in some form, some way, or shape. Now, Square Enix has also made various trademark filings, such as Ember Storia, which may or may not be related. Now, we have to just wait and see, but based off of this interview and based off of that they're extremely busy with something, it does seem like Final Fantasy Tactics is finally getting that much anticipated remaster that people want, especially after people got a taste with Tactics Ogre Reborn, which is a fantastic strategy RPG, very highly rated across all the platforms that it's on. I enjoyed it quite a bit on the Nintendo Switch. You can check out my discussion and gameplay of it. I'll have a link for you guys in the description below. But yes, Final Fantasy Tactics is a game that still holds up very well in today's day, and if they're able to remaster it, add a few quality of life features and other things to the game, I think it would play brilliantly on modern platforms. It would play really, really, really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they do have it, which I do think that it's probably going to be revealed this year. Square Enix seems to have a little bit of a lighter release schedule this year than last year. It seems like last year they were launching games every single month. There was a brand new game from Square Enix. They were launching games like weeks apart when it comes to ports, when it comes to brand new games, AA, single A, triple A, this and that. I mean, they were launching all sorts of stuff. So this year been a little bit quieter. We did have Forspoken, and we're gonna have some other big titles coming up. Final Fantasy 16 is the huge one. We could get the Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 coming up this year, but I think that's gonna be next year, early 2024. And we still have to wait and see on a number of other rumors and other games that could be coming as well from Square Enix. But I do think that Final Fantasy Tactics is going to be one of those games this year in 2023 that we finally get. So this is definitely reassuring to me, at least. And I feel that when it does come out, you guys are going to experience some greatness when it comes to strategy, RPG, and tactics games, because it still holds up very well from everything that I remember and played and saw. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. But make sure you guys check out some of the other videos that I have done. Check it out. Link will be in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I do appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace out.